All right. All right. All right. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Uh Tonight's show is just gonna be an open show tonight. And we're not gonna be on here too long tonight. I just wanted to come on here and say that you know, one thing people should be aware of and watch out for when they're out here in this today's dating market. uh we should most definitely be watching out for uh manipulating people. You know, definitely should be uh watching out for that. It doesn't make no difference who it is. If it's church pastors or whoever, we should be watching out uh for this kind of stuff. Uh uh we see so much of it out here. People just manipulating people just for to get whatever they want. And it goes back again. We got to teach our kids about this here because it's a different type of world today. And and ladies and gentlemen, it's a lot of things that we miss when we're out here and we are uh moving in this world today. It's hectic, and I think they meant for it to be hectic. You know, Ladies and gentlemen, I think they meant for it to be hectic up on us, but we can get around it. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. Uh, we just keep this notion, keep our kids in tuned. You know, try to make the best of what we of the situation that we're in. But the main thing I like to say to younger people, the main thing is to stay out of trouble, stay out of the midst of the law. And the young men stay out of, stay away from, bad company. Stay away from bad company. You know, and I say to older men, like I say, it's an open show. We have to exercise our right, our way, and our right to vote. We have to exercise, you know, voting our best interests. We can't be following everybody, following all these people. It don't mean us nothing. You know, uh, Everybody keep an eye on what's going on out here. Uh, just keep an eye on lots of things. Need to keep an eye on lots of things. You know, I am uh, you know, just I encourage everybody to come in, watch my videos, watch my show, and just make the best out of the situation that we're in, because it's a mess right now. You know, and the government ain't helping. They don't want to help because their primary goal is to keep everybody divided and broke, and main thing, keeping people in servitude. Servitude is something else. And when people, that's all they used to, and they're always lusting for that. you know and if manipulation wasn't a real thing, you know people would be getting paid right, and we would have billionaires. But you know when you get people to working for so much, and for very little of the profits, that's just the way it is. And there's some things that we need to teach our kids. Save your money. Save your money while you young. you know I think that's a reason why also too a lot of rotations happen on jobs and people have so many jobs is that they don't want you to build money like that. They really don't. That's something a lot of young people need to keep in mind. Uh, you know, like I say again, this is just the open show. You know, just like the criminal justice system. You know, they have people up in jail, and the police they just turns them in. But inside the justice system, like the judges and the lawyers, you know, they be negotiating sentences. It just don't. It's not just on paper. They can manipulate that any way that they want. See, that's one thing we got to start telling our young people. You know, we got to really start hipping them on, and we got to really start uh uh guarding our freedoms more better. We really do need to start guarding them more better. Really and truly need to start guarding our freedoms better. You know, uh, got to watch these politicians and what they say. Like I said, you got to watch these people what they say. I mean, we have to put more emphasis on who we vote for, and we have to think in when it comes to them on a turn by turn basis. When it comes to politicians, we need to think on them in a turn by turn basis. If they do not fulfill 90% of the promises that they promise, and it must be vital promises. And they need to be, pretty close to 100. We need to vote them out. We need to hold them accountable on what they're doing on their record, and we need to look for the gray areas, the the fine print, what they actually put on things. You know, I sit back and I think all the time, ladies and gentlemen, what are we going to do next? Why these people ain't held to the same standards, and why are these people are held less accountable? And I say this again about politicians. Like I say tonight, ladies and gentlemen, this is an open show. A lot of them, we need to send them home, and a lot of them, we need to do something about their pensions. You know, their pensions. Start threatening their way of life. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't deliver. Some of them, they don't deliver. And when they don't deliver, you know, we send them packing. It's time for accountability with them too, ladies and gentlemen. These pastors in these churches, you sit back, you look at them, and they uh have these big congregations. They collect offerings. They collect all types of tithes and everything. I understand bills got to be paid at the church. But show me where they're doing, show me what they're doing in the community. Show me what they're doing. What are they doing to help the communities? I remember when I was coming up, my mom and daddy was building their house. I remember when church members and church people used to come out there and they'll give you a hand, or even get together, take up some offering money to buy supplies. Jokers, they don't do that. They put that money in their pocket now. They sure do. $1 billion mansions. You know, you have to look at this type of stuff. And they don't want you to look at that. Well, you should. You're putting your money there. Sure is. You should. That can add up to, with one person, to thousands of dollars. You know, manipulating people, you know, things can go a whole lot of ways. That is one of the things why what I push on the show is that we have to be able to see in more than one dimension. You know, I remember there was a lot of times we took better care of our communities than we used to, but they all wanted to dumb us down, and they did a good job of it. You know, government partnering with churches, especially in the black community, NAACP. A lot of these people done a bang up ass job. Damn bang up job. They really have. A lot of them have done a bang up ass job. They'll come out and show you one or two things, but you've been absent. They'll come out and show you one or two things that they done recently. But you don't never see nothing what it got done. They be busy getting money, you know, from the government. You know, reliance on the government should only go so far. You know, really does. Really does. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's gonna be a very short show. I wanted to come on tonight and you know, just try to keep everybody awake, keep everybody up on their toes, you know, because it's not over. I mean, and for us to go with the men out here, we have to think more about ourselves. We really and truly do. You know, you got these pastors out here talking about, you know, women looking for their father, and you know how they don't want to work. I mean, you have to think about this stuff on manipulating people. You know, how can you expect men to go through all this? They still expect men to be a dum-dum. You know, the women, they want to act like, and the pastors be supporting it. They want to act like they want men to be traditional men, but they don't want to be traditional women. They're not traditional women. You know, they really are not. You know, it's that double standard that I mean, there's us as men, we got to watch out for. You know, watch out for the double standard, the double dealing. You know, I guess that's why a lot of guys are handing them daughters back to their daddies. You know, they don't want them. You know, something must be understood. You have to understand this. You have to understand this. You know, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna bring this live stream to a close. I'm a little wore out tonight, but you know, we love you. Like I say, we appreciate all our viewers and our new subscribers and all of our subscribers. We appreciate y'all, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna sign off tonight. I'm gonna call back next Saturday, but videos are all week, ladies and gentlemen. And we love y'all. Appreciate y'all viewership, and peace out.